Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the Frontline Changes report. There is no collapse today. No collapse. Nothing happened today. Russia did not cause any collapse to the Ukrainian lines. So we're going to start off with the Frontline Changes over at Timkovka. So over at the Kupyansk front. Hey, I forgot to bring out the arrow. It's a bit nervous, Slava Ukraini, yeah. Then so Kupyansk front, this Kupyansk, over on this part, just west of Olyansky, Russian forces continue the advance. Yesterday we have reported this advance, reported by the Deep State UA. We have new geolocation. Russian forces basically have continued to advance from the previous position down this terrain. It looks like a gully or a thin valley. I'm not sure. I forgot to look at the Google Earth. The Russians continue to advance. The advance is around 1.5 to 2.2 over 2 kilometers deep, which is totally not a collapse. Like the Ukrainian line did not collapse. Like the Ukrainians just did a reverse offensive, and the Russians did a massive withdrawal forward. So this is what happened over in the Kupyansk front. So we move on to the next frontline change. After the Kupyansk front, we jump straight all the way to the Pokrovsk front. So over this sector, this is Pokrovsk, and so the next frontline change is at Shevchenko. This is Shevchenko, basically in the south of Pokrovsk. Massive, supermassive capture by the Ukrainian forces. They have advanced 10,000 kilometers into the rear positions of Russian positions. This distance is around 576,000 kilometers into the rear positions. So Ukrainian forces basically advance, continuing from the previous position that they have previously geolocated, continue to advance. This actually show that some of the mapping actually is not accurate in this region here. I did see some of the mapping from memory for the Russian and Ukrainian ones. So this geolocation just proved that the DBS mapping continued to be pretty accurate based on geolocation. Despite the Russians are making this northern flanking operations, attacking into the rear positions of the Ukrainian side, the Ukrainians actually continue to try to go deeper, which is very interesting. How this playing out. They are going to play rotation, so we shall see how this continue to progress. I just find it very interesting. And so that's all from this area. The distance traveled, did I say? It's 570,000 kilometers. I forgot. So we go straight to Uzbenivka, just nearby. So it's still in the Pokrovsk front. Over at Uzbenivka, Russian forces has been geolocated on the westernmost street of Uzbenivka. We try to map this a bit more conservative. So this is the advance by the Russian forces. This comes after previous geolocations of the Russian forces actually was here. So they continued the advance. I'm trying not to commit to this northern part, so I still leaving it as a parallel universe for now, where the Ukrainian claims will continue to stay. But definitely Uzbenivka is now under threat of full capture by the Russian forces by the look of it. So that's all from Uzbenivka. Then we move further south to Avdiivka. So at Avdiivka itself, on the eastern part of Avdiivka, Russian forces, according to Ukrainian mapping, have managed to secure the eastern outskirts of Avdiivka entirely. So this is some advance in this sector. And however, then we have this shocking one over on the west of Avdiivka. So which is super long. It is a geolocation of Russian forces in the south of Kotlyarivka. So this leads to a massive capture looking like this. It's a very, very huge advance from memory. I think it's 6 kilometers. So this is around, it's almost 6 kilometers deep into Ukrainian controlled areas. So something, of course, something like this is very ridiculous. But it is a geolocation. So the key point now is that whether the Russians can hold this kind of position or going so deep, and whether is there a real massive collapse of the Ukrainian defense line. So according to Deep State UA, their description is that things is very confusing. It's very chaotic. No, the Russia and Ukraine positions is pretty intermixed, and the Russians are doing a tank rush. So yeah, you believe whatever you want to believe. We just track the front line, so it's not that much of a concern to me how it happened. But the important thing is it happened, and it basically goes beyond our blue mapping. You see, our blue mapping, yeah, I never expected the Russians to go so deep. So we will have in the next mapping, the next day's mapping, I will have to extend this border backwards. But definitely we shall continue to monitor how this goes. This actually is incongruent with previous updates, where the Russians were doing this northern flanking movement, which was then invalidated by Ukrainian advance or counter attack. But now the Russians are back all the way even further. So it's a very, very unusual situation over developing in this sector. We'll just wait and see. I think with a few more days, there should be more clarity. Tentatively, this geolocation just is so ridiculous. I'm not even sure if it's accurate. I didn't fact check the geolocation because I have no time to do that. So let's see how this go. We shall continue to monitor the situation. Over in the south of Preobrazhenka, Russian forces have basically entered or almost entered into Avdiivka. So geolocation of Russian forces basically over at Avdiivka, coming from Zaporizhzhia. So the Russian forces are advanced in this region here with the distance traveled is around 1.6 kilometers. So yet another advance. And the Russians basically is going all around Preobrazhenka and perhaps even Troitsky. So I would imagine that the Ukrainians have a very strong position at Preobrazhenka and the Russians are going around it in the pincer movement. And potentially the Ukrainians may have a strong position at Troitsky and Horikove as well. So, which is probably a possibility that the Russians will just go beyond it and cut off from the rear. So, but of course, this is a very, very, this is almost like playing computer game. It's very, how to say, too imaginary, or too optimistic, for the Russians to be able to do something like this. So let's wait and see. Just wait and see. And then we go to the Andriivka front with another shocking update. So this shocking update comes from Deep State UA. I have already covered this in the conclusions. I highly urge you guys to watch the conclusions at the end of this, after the end of this video. What I already explained pretty extensively in the conclusions, so I'm not going to go too much into that. What we do have is that the Ukrainian mapping have mapped the Russians have a firm position in the center of Rozhliv. However, I think Deep State UA themselves have no freaking idea how the Russians reached there. And I think this is partly due to the fact that they might have missed some of the geolocations that was published online. So they just do an arbitrary gray zone leading like this. Like a very, very long gray zone that makes zero sense. But on DPA's mapping, it's actually much more clearer. Because Russian mapping have previously mapped that they have reached all the way to this position, and there was geolocation of Russian forces reaching this tree line. So the sensible thing is that the Russians actually attacked from Constantinople direction into Rozhliv, and this leads to this advance looking like this. This neck here, this area here might actually be much thicker. It might actually be something like this, which then will make a lot more sense because this looks too thin, not enough buffer for the advance. But this is, of course, this is just my projection. So I put this as a possible Russian advance. It will be only affecting the Russian mapping. It will not affect the Ukrainian mapping. So only this center part will be mapped as a full capture. This bigger chunk here will be a Russian claim. So But there's a high chance that the Russians may actually even conquer all of this area already. The only reason why it's not mapped is because no one realized that is the case. So so don't be surprised if this mapping actually turns out to be like this in the next few days. As more and more information comes into the public domain, we'll be able to tell what the hell is happening. But this is possible because we have fighting reported at Rosleaf for a long time. So and remember that this advance here in the southeast was just recently. I'm running out of voice. Batman. Oh, so yeah. So sorry. So yeah. So the Batman almost took over my body. It's Russia's fault. So anyway, so that's the main situation because we have this only recently. So a further continuous advance by the Russian forces now reaching into Rosleaf is not a surprising thing. It's a possibility. So that's all for all the frontline changes. So I want to do, so let's do some calculation of the total area captured by the Russian forces. Ukrainian ones is pretty simple, pretty straightforward because they only have one frontline change. So at Shevchenko, so that contributes to 0.31 square kilometers. For the Russian side is, I forgot to put out the black box, is the biggest, it's too big. The biggest is at Pokrovsk, which is contributed by this big chunk over here. But it's not too small over at Kupyansk as well. There's already 3.57 square kilometers. So 3.57 plus 9.6 plus 1.26. Total area captured by the Russian forces is 14.43 square kilometers. So yeah, this is definitely in line with the typical Russian advance. Typically 10 plus square kilometers per day. So this is definitely on par. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Like I said, watch the conclusions. Don't miss it. I find that a lot of you guys like the conclusions because yeah, it's not so boring, because I talk about opinions. So so thank you for watching and see you guys in the next update.